First thing we're going to do is we're going to welcome Kai Carlin back to Philly Pressbox Radio. Kai, welcome back. And how are we going to clear this mess up? All the pressure is on you tonight.
That's a lot of pressure, Bill. You're asking a little bit too much of me, man, when it comes to this Sixers team. But I'll try. I'll try to answer any questions and try to clear anything up as we kind of go along.
All right. Well, Kai, I'm going to start off with this. I know you really enjoy covering the Sixers. I see your articles often. You do a great job, but as you yourself noted in a Tuesday piece that you wrote, this season has been, quote, a complete disaster. So I ask you, is it still fun covering this underachieving, frustrating to watch team?
I'm going to say yeah, because, I mean, at the end of the day, it's still basketball at the end of the day. So, I mean, I'm very blessed and very happy to be able to do what I do. But I will say it hasn't been as fun as like previous seasons because this team and it's not even like people expected them to be bad. Like that's one of those things where just like, if you expect them to be bad, whatever. They were expected to contend for championships this year. And the fact that they're 20-34, it has been a little bit of a disappointment. Like this is like one of those really tough seasons to like really kind of wrap your head around, really.
Yeah. Well, Kai, before we drill down into this thing a little bit, right on the surface, can we just say if there's a somewhat healthy Joel Embiid, we're not in this mess, and if we have a healthy one, we're in the mix?
Yeah, I think if Joel had been even just somewhat healthy, honestly, like they wouldn't be 20-34. I mean, he's only played 17 out of 54 games. It's been such a disaster for him. I really don't think he should have came back at the end of last year. I mean, obviously he missed 2 months because of the meniscus injury, the initial one in last January. And he even admitted himself that he did come back early in order to try and help the Sixers win. Obviously it didn't work. They lost in round 1 to New York. And then he goes off and he plays in the Olympics for Team USA. And I really don't think he should have returned last year. I just don't think he should have. And I understand why he did 100%, but I don't think he should have, especially when you consider the fact that like last season was probably already kind of down the tubes anyway. I don't think they weren't going to beat the Knicks with or without him, which obviously we saw that. So it's one of those things where it's unfortunate. Even this year, I think you can see that he's clearly not 100%. His field goal percentage is down, 3-point percentage down, scoring down by wide margins too. It's not just by a couple percentage points. It's a huge drop off because he's clearly not 100% healthy, and I feel like that's been a huge reason why they're 20-34. It's been a disaster. I'm just going to say that again.
Well, Kai, I'm sure I'm not the first to ask you this, but why the hell did Daryl Morey and company feel the need to give Joel that massive $193 million contract extension in September when they knew he had this knee issue?
That's the $193 million question. It's definitely like a little confusing. And I know there have been a lot of reports out there saying that, like they did their research, they talked to 1 million doctors, and I think that's true. I think they really did expect this knee to improve as time has gone on. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, it just hasn't. And, Joel said to, I think it was ESPN, that Super Bowl Sunday game against the Bucks, which nobody in Philadelphia was watching except for me and other.
I watched.
There we go, Jim. There you go. Loved it.
Both of you guys. You're the two.
Other Sixers beat writers and stuff. But, I don't think anybody was really watching that game besides us. And he said to ESPN that he probably needs another surgery, and he's probably going to, he's going to have to rest and recover, which kind of leads me to my next point. The Sixers are still going to go for the play-in, and they want the playoffs. Me personally, if I'm Daryl Morey and I'm looking at this season, I'm chalking it. Like the season, it's unfortunate. The season has been tough, but I mean, you got to also think about your future. And if you get this guy fully healthy, and to Bill's question earlier, if you get a fully healthy Joel and a fully healthy PG and the Tyrese and everything, I think that they are much, much better than what they are. Just they've had no type of injury luck this year at all.
Well, and sticking with him, I don't want to beat it to death, but besides his knee injuries and some of his regular injuries, he just seems to get hurt in all kinds of other places too. Is it just bad luck? Is it being overly aggressive? What do you think it is that every week it feels like he's got a different injury?
It's unfortunate. It really is, especially when you consider the fact that, like, this guy really is, when he's healthy, a top 3, top 5 player in this league, and I don't think it's much of a debate. Like, he's so dominant out there on the floor, but when he's not healthy, which is what we've seen, and to your point, Bill, it's not just the knee. You know, he's had a facial injury this year. He's had a left foot sprain. He's dealt with something in his hand, and it's just like it's been just new injury after new injury after new injury, and it's really unfortunate to see. I don't think I've ever, off the top of my head, I can't think of another maybe just so injury prone player other than maybe Anthony Davis for the Dallas Mavericks. But I mean, like, I've never seen a player like this just get hit with so many injuries, not just this season, but throughout his entire career. It's always been something. He has not had one healthy playoff run, which is insane. This is his, I believe, 9th season playing. So, I mean, the fact that he hasn't had one healthy playoff run, it's insane to think about.
Kai, the Sixers' big three has played a grand total of 13 games together this season, some of those just partial games. Embiid, as we've discussed, has battled the knee issues and other injuries yet again. Paul George looks often every bit of his 34 3/4 years of age. You wrote a piece last week about the bashing that PG is taking from the national media. Can we still expect those guys to be, at least somewhat healthy and focused enough to sneak into the postseason as a play-in team and maybe give a quality team like the Cavs or Celtics at least a little bit of a battle?
I don't know. I really don't, especially because, I mean, you look at what he just did against Brooklyn last week. I mean, 2 points, 1 for 7 shooting. I will give him credit. He was pretty good defensively, and he was very good as a passer. But, I mean, the Sixers didn't bring Paul George in to be a pretty good defender and a pretty good passer. They brought him in to be the third star and the third scorer to help them get past round 2 for the first time since 2001. So, no, he's been a pretty disappointment this year, and he knows it. He doesn't run from the criticism. He knows he has to be better, which is why I do give him credit for that. He's been really, a stand-up guy with that. I really do think, though, like, if they can just get these guys healthy for 10 games, like a stretch of 10 games, they can go like 7-3 in a 10-game stretch, 8-2, something like that. And all of a sudden, they're right back in there. That's how talented these guys are. But I don't think they're going to be able to have the chemistry or mesh enough in time in these final 28 games in order to truly beat a team like the Cavs or the Celtics in a 7-game series. Those two teams know each other like the back of their hand. So, I don't think they're going to be able to beat either of those teams just because of the lack of chemistry and the lack of, time that they have together on the floor.
Guy, Tyrese Maxey kind of been out there by himself a lot this year. 27.5 points, 3.5 rebounds, 6 assists, a couple steals a game, all-star snub. How do you feel about Tyrese not making the all-star team and his season overall, which he hasn't really shot well, but he's done a pretty good job? Yeah,
his shooting numbers are down, but I mean that's to be expected when defenses are loading up on you and they're doing everything they can to slow you down. And just unfortunately, that's just kind of what happens. As far as his his all-star snub, I didn't really kind of view it as a snub, especially like the Sixers, like their record kind of spoke for itself. That's not a reflection on Tyrese Maxey, but it's also just when it comes to voting, like these coaches, they do take your team record into consideration. Now, I mean, you look at the guards that made it. Cade Cunningham with the Detroit Pistons. Detroit went from 14 wins last year. They're already at 29 this year. And Cade has been awesome. So, I mean, that's like you have to reward him for that. Tyler Hero has taken big steps forward, kind of kept Miami afloat amid all the Jimmy Butler saga. You got to get him in there. Who else got it? Darius Garland, one of the better point guards in the league. Cleveland has the number 1 record in the Eastern Conference. And then Trae Young, who got in as the injury replacement for Giannis Antetokounmpo. Trae Young's leading the league in assists. And he's doing it for a Hawks team that has dealt with injuries just as much as Philly has. Maybe not to the same extent in terms of their stars, but Atlanta's dealt with a lot of injuries too. And Trae Young's been fantastic. So no, I mean, look, I just don't think Tyrese really kind of deserved it this year, and there's always next year. He's got plenty of basketball ahead of him.
I guess one positive about so many guys missing time with injuries that it's given Nick Nurse and Daryl Morey the chance to look at some young guys like Ricky Council IV, Adem Bona, and Justin Edwards, giving those guys an opportunity to show their skills. Edwards, the Philly kid who started Kentucky but went undrafted, looks like he might have a future. Do you agree?
I like him a lot. There's a reason why they converted him from two-way to the standard deal. He's been so terrific. I mean, the kid has a great head on his shoulders. All he does is ask questions. When Caleb Martin was still here before he got traded to Dallas, Caleb Martin would tell me all the time, the kid just asks questions all the time. Like, he's always in my ear. What can I do here? What can I do there? Kyle Lowry would say the same thing about him. He's great defensively. He's got like a strong body. He's barrel chested. He can get up into guys. He's got a great mindset too. He doesn't back down from guys when the Lakers were here, he was defending LeBron James. The Celtics were here a couple weeks ago. He was defending Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. He's been really good, Jim. And I think it's one of those things where if he continues to add to his offensive game, specifically a more like consistent 3-point shot, he's going to be in the NBA for a really long time.
Well, Kai, what do you think it takes? I don't want to word this negatively, but it's probably going to come out negatively. What do you think it takes for this team to not be successful enough to blow this thing up?
They would have to finish like with 50 plus losses. I think like if they were to go, like they're 20-34, right? There's 28 games left. If they go like 10-18, like in these final games of the season, that's where I could see Daryl being like, you know what? Maybe we might have to kind of make some changes here, because I mean, if you think about it, Bill, they've kind of gone backwards ever since they fired Doc Rivers. And this
who would have ever thought you'd say that?
And this is not a reflection on Nick Nurse. Nick Nurse has been terrific. He has done everything he possibly can. It's just unfortunate, like with all the injuries. But I mean, they won. They were the number 1 seed, Doc's first year in 21. They won 51 games in 22, and I think they won 54 games in 23. It's just they just weren't able to get out of round 2 with James Harden and Joel and everything. And then obviously Nick comes in, and they were so good last year. I mean, if you remember, I think they were the number 2 seed in the East, and then Joe went down, and that was kind of it. But like the point is, I mean, they have kind of gone backwards really the last 2 years, and like the window for contention in the NBA can shut quickly. If you look around the East, I mean, Cleveland's already been terrific. The Celtics won a title. The Knicks have passed them. The Bucks are still right there with Giannis and Dame. And then you see teams that were at the bottom now all of a sudden surpassing Philadelphia, Detroit, Orlando, Indiana. So like there are teams that all of a sudden the Sixers is not just the Celtics or the Cavs or the Knicks or the Bucks. You got to fight off the Pistons and the Pacers and the Magic, and the Heat, the Hawks. Like it's not just like 2-3 teams. So yeah, I mean, I think they would have to consider a huge change. Like if they all of a sudden are looking at a 30-52 record, for example.
Kai, are you worried at all about the state of the NBA? A lot of people have really soured on the association. Ratings are down a bit. The All-Star Game ratings, second lowest ever. 4.7 million people watched the game Sunday night. A lot of people hate the three-point shot and the reliance on that, including Bill Furman. So what is your take about the state of the NBA and its future?
I think we need more people like me who's actually going to actually support and celebrate this game rather than Charles Barkley and Shaq and talk about how trash the game is. Yeah, honestly, it's pathetic to me to watch guys like Barkley and Shaq, who are obviously Hall of Famers. Like, I'm not trying to discredit those guys, but to hop up there and say today's game is trash, I think it's pathetic. I'm 31. I started watching hoops at 10. I think it was 2003, or I want to say I was 9, 10. So I've seen kind of like a lot of different eras up until now, right? The game's literally played the same way, except instead of mid-range shots, they're getting 3-pointers. I mean, to me, it's just like it's literally the same thing. The ball moves at a very high rate. They're just shooting threes now instead of mid-rangers. Like, who cares? Like, the scoring numbers have gone up. You can come up with every defensive scheme you possibly can, right? But if you're playing Steph Curry and he's stepping back and hitting shots from 45 feet, well, what are you going to do? Like these guys are just like who they are. Like I think the only negative thing I can say about today's game is the load management. Like if you really want to criticize today's game, load management, I will give you that. But in terms of the game itself, no, I think it's fantastic. I've never been more entertained by the NBA ever. So the All-Star game sucked. I'm going to put that out there. The All-Star game sucked. The All-Star game. But the reason why I think it sucked is because once again, the league didn't focus on the game. Like, and I'm a big Kevin Hart fan. I watch his stand-ups all the time. I think he's hilarious. I don't need Kevin Hart for an hour and 13 minutes, trashing guys. I don't even know who Mr. Beast is. I don't know who that is. I guess he's some YouTube streamer.
No idea.
but I mean, I don't need him doing some weird giveaway while I'm trying to watch the best players in the world go at it. It's an all-star game. Focus on the basketball. I also don't need a bunch of commercials either. I think the final number I saw was a 3-hour broadcast. We had 30 minutes of basketball out of 3 hours. That's wrong. That's pathetic. That has to change.
I got to sneak in one more question.
Okay.
Kai is good friends with Keith Pompey. And I got to ask Kai how KP is doing, considering his dreadful New York Football Giants and the fact that the Eagles just won the Super Bowl. This has got to be driving Keith nuts.
It's driving him crazy. I will say that. But I will give the OG this. The OG actually came out and he gave credit to the Eagles while we were all at the Wells Fargo Center. So shout out to Keith for maturing.
Well, he had to, right? I mean, we love having Keith on, and we always make sure that we really give him the business about all the Philly sports too.
No, as you should. I mean, me personally, as you know, I'm from Michigan, so I didn't grow up like in the Philly sports area, but I can appreciate the fans here. They're passionate. They love their teams. It's been quite an experience.
Yes, sir.
Hey, let everyone know where they can follow your writings, your social media, and all that stuff.
Yeah, you guys can always check me out at SixersWire.com. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram, Kai_Carlin. Just my name with a little underscore in between my first and last name.
Sounds good. Excellent.
Well, thanks for joining us as always. Let's do it again, and let's win some games.
Yeah, that'll be nice. I enjoy covering the playoffs, so I hope I get some playoff games at some point.
Yes, sir.
There you go. All right, Kai. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate you.
Thanks, guys. Thank you for having me on.
All right.